So for that period of so for that 24-hour period, you'll eat and drink nothing apart from energy bars and energy drinks. You don't have any sort of what people might call proper food or
no. Well, we have sandwiches. We every solid feed. It changed between different types of energy bars. So each feed would be a slightly different type of energy bar, and then about every third feed we'd have a sandwich, which would be white bread. It would be 2 slices of white bread cut in half, so effectively a slice of white bread with peanut butter and honey on. Because I survive on peanut butter and honey during the week. That when I'm working, I do toast in the morning, which has got peanut butter and honey on it, and so. I think it's a good thing to have that bread in your stomach. It provides a sort of good solid something for your sort of stomach to work with, really solid base. And so we use white bread. Don't want too much roughage, obviously, so you don't want to be using brown. And the peanut butter provides a good bit of protein, which is never a bad thing, as long as you don't take too much of it on. Bit of honey, a little bit of a sugar spike, but not too much of one. And it's a bit more complex than taking anything too sugary on, which you don't want really. And it just provides a bit of variety. So that's the only it'll only change between the go stays constant right through the race, same flavour, same amount. The only thing that changes potentially with the go is the amount of liquid we take with it. So we always take 40 grams of go on per hour. But if it got really hot, we had the option to take 2 500ml bottles per hour. Normally every hour, 1 750ml bottle every hour. Apart from the very first hour, which was just was the 500ml bottle. So we start with a 500ml bottle, drink that first hour, then right through the race. And as it happened, that's the way it was. It went right through the race with 750ml every hour.
Right.
But we had an option of if it got hot, we might take a 500ml bottle on every half hour, which would be a litre an hour. Instead of 750ml an hour, would be a litre of liquid an hour. But whichever amount of liquid we take on per hour, the amount of go in it remains the same.
Right, I see.
See what I mean? So
you have margarine or butter on your sandwiches?
No fat.
Crusts on, crusts off?
Crusts on. No fat. Yeah, it's very hard to digest fat, and
yeah.
I mean, there's quite a bit of fat in the peanut butter anyway,
Absolutely,
but you don't want to be taking too much fat on, really.
Yeah. No, you don't want to gain weight over the 24 hours either.
Yeah, no. So now it's a very simple, there's nothing especially high tech, but one thing I've learnt really, and this stands to be proven against possibly, but one thing I believe is no such thing as rocket fuel when you're racing. You read all the literature on this on energy bars and whatever, and you can be absolutely convinced that you're going to be eating rocket fuel that's going to make you go 10% faster, but there isn't such a thing, I don't believe, when you're racing. You've got to just replace what you can replace easily and effectively, but you can't make your ride better by eating some sort of magical food. We've never proven that to be the case. But time will go on, they'll learn more and more, and I think there's more. We're using stuff that I was using 15 years ago still, because I know it works. But that's not to say that it's the ultimate, and I'd have an open mind on that, really. Yeah. I think time and more knowledge might bring, that's an area that can be worked on, is nutrition. We've got our nutrition nailed to the floor, but, who's to say those nails couldn't be more solid?
Yeah. And of course, we're all different, aren't we? Something that suits one person may not.
That's right.
One man's meat's another man's poison.
That's right. That's true. And
it's got to be tailored to you as an individual, hasn't it? Yeah.
There's room for work there, I think, but that's I wasn't prepared to take any chances, so we stuck with what we knew. Yeah,
and you managed to avoid stopping at the first burger van you saw or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I'm just business. I mean, anyone who knows me knows that I love food. Anything. Normally, I'm quite easy tempted by any kind of food or drink that's available, but no, when I'm racing, it's just down to business. Keep it straight and keep it regular, and to try not to work on, any temptations that might pass you away.
Yeah, absolutely, and it definitely works. So, how old were you when you first started cycling, Andrew?
Difficult to say exactly, but I actually because when I was young, we lived out in the sticks, and when I was at primary school, no one from my school lived anywhere near me. They all lived a couple of miles away at least. So by the time I was 8 or 9, if I wanted to see any of friends, I had to cycle there because that was the only way.
Right.
My dad had his own business. We had a nursery, garden centre. It was a nursery then, really, rather than a garden centre. And my mother, I had 3 sisters all younger than me, so my mum was busy with them. So I was, one of the big factors in my sort of upbringing was I had a lot of freedom. You know, my parents were busy with things, so I had a chance to do my own thing, which was great for me. And so if I needed to see any of my friends, I'd have to go on my bike and I'd jump on my little bike, and I wouldn't think anything of riding a few miles to go and see them out on the road. You know, the roads were a bit quiet, and this was the 70s. It's not that long ago compared to what some people remember, but it's still quite long enough ago that the roads were a bit different place then. And so yeah, by the time I was 10, I was travelling a few miles on open roads to go and see my friends. But then I started cycling more seriously when I was at secondary school. I had to cycle to school when I was at secondary school because the school was a few miles away and there was no bus services just where we lived. So I was cycling to school. I started secondary school when I was 11, I think, or something. So I was cycling to school then. And then when I started at that school, I met a few lads who were into cycling more seriously and actually were in a club. And they persuaded me to come out and cycle a bit with them. And ended up joining the cycling club, the Portsmouth Wheelers, which I'm still riding for.
Right.
And I joined the club in, I think, about 77, when I was probably about 14 or something, 15. So that was when I became, I suppose, officially a cyclist.
Right. So interesting you just say that, because quite a lot of sort of very, very high performing cyclists have been taking a lot of aerobic exercise from when they've been very small as they've been developing. And I'm sure that's a factor in developing someone's aerobic capacity. A lot of people have, almost it seems as if people take things up when they're in their mid-teens. It's too late.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's any hard and fast rules on that, because equally there's quite a lot of people, especially in recent years, seem to have taken up cycling in later years and excelled really, very quickly at it. But perhaps they were doing something seriously aerobic in a different way as when they were younger. But certainly, yeah, I mean, my aerobic exercise when I was younger was only directed at adventure and travelling. It wasn't directed in a sporting way at all. I wasn't interested in racing, or I just loved cycling because it got me out into the countryside and took me to places which I found really exciting. I still do, I find travel the most stimulating thing in the world. And when I was only 14 or 15, the thought of being able to go and explore wild places in Wales with my friends or on my own on my bike was just, that was what drove me. It was the most exciting thing, the freedom of it. And if someone said to me now, what can you encapsulate what it is about cycling that sort of that captures you so much, I'd say it's freedom. That's the word that sums it all up for me.
Oh, absolutely. Can you remember your first race?
Yes, it was a 10-mile time trial on the old course, funnily enough only a few miles from where I now live in Chester. They stopped using the course when Chris Ballman was only young, actually, because Chris Ballman started his cycling on that course as well. But it was an out and home course, and there was a dead turn in the road, which of course they banned 20 years ago or something now. But it was a 10-mile time trial on this B road course, slightly rolling. It was great, perfect time trialling road really, just a few miles south of Chester. And I rode down after school with my friend, he was the guy really, Ian Burns, who we're still very friendly with now. And he was the guy who really got me into cycling because his dad was a cyclist and he joined the Portsmouth Wheelers, and it was him that persuaded me to join the club and go out with the club. And the two of us rode down after school, and I think I had a raging cold at the time, and my mother told me that I shouldn't be cycling, but I just ignored that, as you do. And we did this time trial. I can't remember what I did. It was nothing special. I wasn't a good athlete at all when I was younger. At school, my school sports reports always said, well, I was just a waste of time. But we used to have most of the lads played football. We used to dread sports afternoon or whatever, or sports classes, because all the lads would go and play football in a team, but there was a group of people who were so hopeless they just weren't even worth trying to teach football or cricket or anything. And they just gathered us together and said, go off to one side and amuse yourselves, and the rest of us will get on with doing something worthwhile. And I just hung around with these other, no-hopers really. So I was very small, very thin, not strong, and the only thing at school that I could do, and I certainly didn't excel at it, but I could do with any degree of competency, was once a year we had a marathon running race, and we used to go out from the school, and you'd never do it now, but in those days we used to go out and run about right over the fields, the back of the school, round the roads. It was about 5 mile marathon. We used to call it a marathon run, and I could actually do quite well at that. I wouldn't win it or anything, but compared to what it was like at every other element of school sports, I performed reasonably well because I was cycling quite seriously by then, just messing about, not racing or anything, and so I was quite fit, and something like that was an endurance-based thing. I was reasonably competent at, but anything else that involved me going fast around the track, or even any kind of cycling that involved me going quick, I was pretty useless at, really.
Surprising, isn't it? You found your niche.
No one would have ever given me any chance of being any kind of sporting, star at school. Not the slightest.
Well, how things changed.